hello. We have a special guest on the WowFactor podcast, and he's a man of amazing talents. He's currently the director of Xclusive Promotions. He's the group director and CEO of Retail ROI, and he's the founder and executive director of MyCookingStory, and an initiative that he created within this COVID pandemic season. And his name is Khalid, and I would like him to welcome to the show. Hi, Khalid. How are you doing?
Hi, mate. Hi, Samuel. Thank you for having me over. It's a big mouthful, all the introduction.
Wow.
I'm a simple guy.
Simple guy, but the titles are really, very powerful. You're doing exceptional work in this world here.
I hope so.
So, for starters, who is Khalid?
Okay. Hey, very good question. Seriously, I mean, it's a very profound question because who is Khalid? If you asked me when I was 18, it was a different story. When I was 20, different story. But now I'm trying to figure it out who Khalid is, right? I still am trying to figure it out. So that's kind of the inside out approach. But in terms of who is Khalid, if you want to know, like if you met me in a bar or something or a restaurant, you met me and started talking to me, I suppose I would say I'm a Sri Lankan. And people often say, oh, but how can you speak English like this, right? There's a story to it. So I'm a Sri Lankan, and during the civil war in Sri Lanka, I don't know whether you know about that. This was in '83, right? So mid-'80s. As a preteen, we became refugees in Sri Lanka. So we got exported to different countries. So our first country of port of call was India, then to Fiji. Then we ended up in New Zealand, myself, my brother, and my parents, and then we grew up there in New Zealand, right? So I went to school, I went to university in New Zealand. And since then, I've pretty much, my first job was in Australia, believe it or not. That's what most people do in New Zealand. They get a degree there. It's a great place to get yourself educated and then, fly off to the bigger pond, which is Australia. So I started my career in Australia, then through the Australian company, went to India, Middle East, Singapore, where else? And then London, and then Hong Kong for about 7 years. And then I ended up in Malaysia for the last 15 years. Okay? So all throughout pretty much, except for the early part of my career, I started doing business even at university, selling secondhand stuff to my fellow students. I buy and sell secondhand stuff. My partner was a guy who was a MacGyver. He was amazing, right? He could fix anything. Seriously, he could. I mean, I remember us buying like broken down cars, and he would fix it, right? He's actually now a multi-millionaire out in New Zealand. He runs his own what's it called, a construction vehicle company. So he sort of rents out cranes and stuff. But anyway, him and I started this, and we used to fix microwaves. I mean, he used to fix it. I used to be the sales guy. And so we started that way, and then I've just started my 8th business during COVID, actually. So that's pretty much me, if you want to ask me. But in terms of who is Khalid, I think we should be asking ourselves that question, right? Who am I? And I'm trying to find out, right? Who really is Khalid? Wow. So there you go. And I hope that answers your question.
Wow, now that is a mouthful. So the 15 years you've been in Malaysia, how has that been? What have been probably your learnings of being in this country?
It's been interesting. Actually, I love Malaysia, and we've I've had pretty much most of my kids here, and I've started a couple of businesses here, and I love Malaysia because the cost of living here is not expensive. People are very nice. It's multiracial, multicultural society, and believe it or not, I still can't speak Bahasa fluently.
I understand you entirely.
Yeah, there you go, Samuel. And I'm sure you face the same thing. Wherever you go, people understand English, right? I mean, they
yes, true.
Speak in English. But it's also very conducive to business, regional business, because the businesses I operate are regional, right? So, but it's based out of Malaysia. Pre-COVID, traveling like I used to do about 40 trips a year. So whether it's AirAsia or any other airline, it's so central, especially to Southeast Asia. So yeah, I'm in Malaysia, been here, and set up my house here and family, right? So yeah.
Wow, that's super amazing.
Malaysia. And hey, lots of opportunities in Malaysia. Don't let people tell you. People always tell me, when I go to Indonesia, oh, what? You're doing business in Malaysia, only 30 million people. Over here we've got 250 million people. I just say, listen, it's still full of opportunities. Malaysia still has a lot of gold mines.
True, it's a hotspot for business, and I like the diversity. Having been here for 5 to 6 years, it's like having the hotspot of Asia in one place. So almost a good number of the countries are represented, and the opportunities, yes, are really, really diverse. And from seeing the different amount of startups that are coming up into this country, yeah, for a fact, yes, it is a land of opportunity. So as we're talking about opportunity and education, so what do you think, should people go into education, study, or should they just jump into passions and start up their own businesses? What's your take on that?
Yeah, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates have set bad examples, right? So I've got 5 kids. Some of them turn around and say, hey, Papa, well, why should I go to university? Because look at Steve Jobs, right? He walked bare feet, and look at the company he's built. Look at Bill Gates. He never went to school, right? I mean, not never went to school, but, he did not finish college, right?
Yes.
University. So again, it's a very interesting question, Samuel. I've got to be careful how I answer this because probably a lot of people that are listening to it or going to view are parents. I don't want them screaming at me. But generally, as I said to you, I've got 5 kids, and one of them wants to be an actress and model, and the other one wants to be a teacher. The other one wants to be a nurse, right? So funny, that's a 4-year-old that wants to be the nurse. Then she turned around and asked me just about 2 weeks ago. She said to me, Papa, what do you want to become when you grow up? And I thought,
okay.
I was really speechless, right? That was so cute. But anyway, I think education versus business. If there are various different sectors of education. You start with primary school, high school, then you've got university and postgraduate, right? You get a graduate, you become a graduate, then postgraduate. But it all depends on people, right? Or on kids, right? For me, general thing is if my kids want to become whoever they want to become, whatever they want to become, they can. But the thing is, what their passion is. So you've got to be led by passion. The question is not about whether, you should study or get into business. It's about what are you passionate about? That's number one. What do you love doing? And sometimes kids, I've seen teens, I've gone through a few teens. I've had some youngsters working for me, fresh graduates. So they say to me, but Khalid, I don't know what my passion is, right? Then my simple thing to say is the next step is strengths, right? What are your strengths? Then if they go like, what do you mean? What do you mean by strengths? It's almost like, what are you naturally good at? What do you like to do? Like, for example, if you take me, I love to connect with people. I love to talk to people. I mean, I can talk forever. As I said, we're in Penang and I was near the beach. There was a coconut, the drinking coconut seller. And the missus was there. I've got a little baby and she's standing in the sun. And I started talking to this guy and I forgot that I was talking to this guy. And my missus was there. So I love to talk, right? So that's my strength. And, I've built a business based on creativity and selling, right? So that's my strength. So I would say to people, look at your strength. What's your strength? What you're really good at, right? So for example, if your passion is to become a doctor, I've got a lot of mates who grew up with me in New Zealand, and most of their dads are doctors. And from the age of I remember from the age of 14, 15, they wanted to become doctors. One of them wanted to become a scientist. And so they just pursued that. So if you asked me, you can't really become a doctor without education, right? So that's a different story, right? So it all depends on what your passion is, what you want to do, right? So I would not say that I would recommend studying or not. I wouldn't say that I would recommend studying or not studying or getting straight into business. It all depends on that individual. But what should dictate what you want to do in life is your passion and your strengths, right? Don't worry about your weakness because you can always hire other people. For instance, I'm great with dreaming and coming up with ideas, but I'm not a good executor. But my partner Gary Chen, who's my best buddy as well, for the last 15 years, and he's a great executor. So together, we are 1 + 1 = 5, right?
Amazing.
So This is what I would say to kids these days, or people are thinking about whether should the kid go to university, not go to university. It all depends on the kid. Leave it to the kid, and guidance is very simple. What do you love to do? What do you enjoy doing? What do you do? What happens when you do something where you forget yourself? So you should follow that path, right? So that's what I would say. I hope that answers your question, Samuel.
Yes, it answers it perfectly and scientifically too. At least has tapped both ends of more following passion rather than the passion will give the direction at exactly of where you are to invest more of your efforts. If you want to become a doctor, of course, you have to go through the education path. If you want to be a businessman, there's the most you can get from business school, but you have to do the practical part of actually getting into running a business, whether it is being employed in a business and then running your own. It's more on following the path of passion. And one of your new passion ventures comes from you being a chef. Am I correct?
Oh my God, Samuel, thank you so much. I mean, I wish I had a lot of money. I will write you a check for that, for saying that I'm a chef. And you're saying it in this podcast. My
Yes,
God.
the whole world should hear.
Okay, wait. Let me correct you there.
Yes.
I am not a chef, right? Chefs are
Okay.
professionally trained, amazing individuals, right? They are actually culinary artists, right? I'm just a home cook. I'm an amateur home cook I actually started cooking just during COVID, right? Because I had no choice. The maid actually left to go back to Philippines. The missus was pregnant. She's fussy eater. So I had to cook, right? So I learned cooking. I love cooking now. Now, the missus says to me, "Hey, Khalid, get out of the kitchen, go to work." Yeah. So I love cooking, right? So this is where that came about. And funnily enough, I mean, my dad's a great cook. I mean, he's in his late 70s. My mum's a great cook. So I've never kind of dabbled in cooking, but I don't know, during COVID, it's, I believe crisis is a catalyst for so many things in life, good things and bad things, right?
Yeah. So tell us more about My Cooking Story. So you're not the chef, but let's talk about My Cooking Story.
Okay. So
what is it, and what pushed you to create it?
Yeah, sure. That's our latest baby. Ours meaning myself and Gary Chin, my business partner and my best buddy. So we've just given birth to MyCookingStory.com. And it's actually simple. I think in one sentence, it's actually empowering home cooks of Malaysia. So if you look at MyCookingStory.com, what we do is, if you're a home cook, right? There's a lot of home cooks that have come through the COVID period, like myself. And there's a lot of people cooking at home. And a lot of people continue to cook at home, like myself, because we found out that eating at home is a lot more healthier. And also the ingredient of love gets into the food, right? And the food's even tastier. And Samuel, I'm sure, whether it's your wife's cooking, your mother's cooking, you love it, right? I mean, it's tasty, right?
Yes.
So what's the special ingredient that your mom and your wife put in there is the ingredient of love, which you don't probably get in a restaurant, right? So given all this, there was a huge spike in cookware and bakeware sales, according to Commerce.Asia, which published an article that said 880% growth in cookware and kitchenware sales, right? Then I looked around, spoke to a few friends, and we discovered that there's a lot of people like me who've just started cooking. And then, a lot of my friends said, Khalid, we watch Gordon Ramsay, these kind of top chefs. They use some really nice equipment. So we went out there looking for the really nice equipment. And in most of the marketplaces, I don't want to name names, but, e-com marketplaces, you get really, really cheap cookware, bakeware, but the quality is questionable. But then if you go to the higher end department stores, you get great cookware like what Gordon Ramsay would use, or Jamie Oliver, but it's really expensive. It's like over $1,000, right? Then that's when, Gary and I came up with this thing where, again, just got to be fair. I've got to reveal this, whereby we already had a wholesale kitchenware business, right? So we've been in it for a few years. And so we thought to ourselves, why not go B2C, right? Why not take our cookware, which is very good quality, and our prices are fantastic because we're great at sourcing. Why don't we take it straight to the customer? So this is where MyCookingStory.com came about. Again, a lot of people say to me, Khalid, are you selling kitchenware? I am not selling kitchenware. I want to be very specific. Serving a community of home cooks, right? So MyCookingStory.com is a targeted marketplace. You may not have heard this name before. We coined it. It's a targeted marketplace, meaning if you go into MyCookingStory.com, you're a home cook, you'd find utensils for your kids. You can find things, home cooked ingredients, home delivery food, recipes. So everything you need to make your cooking experience at home, you can find it at mycookingstory.com. Powered by the social media, we've got Facebook and Instagram, where a lot of home cooks have come together and they share each other's recipes and so on. So it's actually a universe for home cooks, and it's actually a haven for home cooks. That's what mycookingstory.com is, right? So, simply speaking in technological terms, it's kind of, I suppose, one of the latest e-com platforms of Malaysia. It was launched in July. We're in month 6. And, the demand for cookware and bakeware hasn't stopped. So as a result, the take up on e-com is going like this, right? So we've just launched in Indonesia. Again, we find that a lot of Indonesian home cooks are craving for good quality cookware at bestest prices. Again, that word doesn't exist in English. It's a word that we coined, bestest. So we've just launched in Indonesia on the 1st of December. We're yet to see, how things are going to pan out. So that's mycookingstory.com, Samuel.
Wow. So your main driver for My Cooking Story was to serve the need of home cooks. So were there any specific challenges that you found while setting it up, or are there some challenges that you're still facing, and what are your solutions for those challenges?
Okay. Again, you're full of good questions. So the first challenge was, trying to sort of empower the team with the new business. The second thing is, obviously my team is quite sort of traditional. They're not into online businesses. So this was an online business. We had to re-educate. And again, times were tough. So we decided not to invest to get new talent. We wanted to kind of re-educate the existing talent. So that was the second challenge. Not just the team, but also ourselves, right? Myself. I mean, before, I think in February, March, if you went into my Facebook, I had about 3 followers, and on my Instagram, I had about 4 followers, right? But now it's, I'm into the problem. I'm talking to some of my friends who are experts on Facebook because I've got 4,958 followers on Facebook. Wow. And I heard if you get to 5,000, it becomes a page. So I've got this problem that I'm dealing with, right? So anyway, that was the second kind of challenge where, it's re-educating the team towards the new business. In terms of other challenges, both Gary and I are seasoned business people, and we know there are challenges, and especially during a crisis, there's always a challenge. Once we've accepted crisis as a catalyst for success, then we're all in. So, those were kind of, I suppose, the 2 major challenges. One is the fact that, we were unable to empower our team, just pass on that energy of, setting up this new mission face to face or physically. The second was, the fact that the team was completely offline, right? They only use Facebook for personal things and Instagram for personal things. Some of them didn't even have Instagram, right? So, how did we overcome those challenges? There are lots of other, if you consider, if you ask me challenges, there were shitloads, but, these were the 2 main ones. The other challenges were they were easy to overcome. So the second thing was, the team thinking, Khalid and Gary are up to their tricks again. They've got something new going on. Is this going to work, right? Do we know enough in terms of online. And there are so many, I mean, I had all these questions from my team saying, Khalid, but there's so many online businesses, there are so many e-commerce. We see a lot of them crash and burn. Are we going to do it? Is it going to be okay? Do we know what we're doing, right? Who's going to help us with this? Who's going to help us with that? All of that sort of stuff. So the first thing was, there was a bit of re-educating process. I mean, I myself I did solid about 60 hours during COVID of social media learning, right? Myself went into a few seminars online and learned social media, and same with the team. So that was, we got over it. And again, there is a lesson to be learned here, Samuel. If you want to be successful in life and in business, you need to be able to adapt to the situation, right? You need to remember, or you need to make friendship with change. Change needs to be your friend, not your foe. Or change. You need to embrace change. You need to love change. That's how you're going to live a 10x life. That's how you're going to be successful, right? So these sort of things, over a period of, I think every day we met as a team, and we empowered the team. We explained to them the reason why this business is going to be successful. I mean, the number one reason is Gary and my experience. Number two reason is because we are already experts in sourcing kitchenware. Number three is we've got a great team. And number four is, there is a massive need out there, right? Again, there's another thing there's another thing that I believe is a business is set up or started keeping in mind serving a specific community. If you say to yourself, I'm going to make $1 million, let me do a business, that's the wrong reason to start a business, right? For me, I've always started businesses thinking or keeping in mind, there is a massive need in the community or that specific community. So let me come up with a solution to serve them, right? Mm-hmm. Once you remember the fact that you're serving someone rather than selling something to someone, and they will see through you, they will understand. Okay, so I was just saying that there's a lesson to be learned. As humans, if we want to live successfully, if we want to have a successful professional and personal life, we need to be able to adapt to the situation around us, the environment around us. And one of the biggest things we've got to do is change has to become your friend rather than your foe, right? You've got to embrace change. And you've always got to believe that change is what is going to make you successful, right? So all of those things, these are the conversations we had with the team to really change the mindset, right? It's all about shifting their paradigm because they were totally offline, right? So suddenly online, wow, there are so many online businesses starting up. People are crashing. Am I going to keep my job? Are these guys, are my bosses crazy? What made them decide to go in this direction, right? That they've got no clue. I mean, we know Khalid, he's got no clue on social media. He hates social media, right? So we really had to re-educate them or rewire them in terms of their heads. And those two challenges, we overcame them. But those two challenges were real challenges for us. It might be simple when I say it, but actually shifting someone up here, from an offline businessman to an online, and from an offline employee to an online employee, it's totally different, right? So if the cause or the mission is very clear, everything else will fall in place, right? So those were the two challenges, and that's how we overcame it during COVID.
So that is no longer ongoing in terms of adapting to the fast pace of e-commerce.
Oh my God. It's so, my God, the team is so busy, right? The interesting thing is we've got the same team that was doing offline is doing online. But, again, one of the other things I believe in business is if just stick to your strength, right? Anything else, just outsource it. So whether it's our accounting, whether it's our social media or Facebook advertising, all of these things are outsourced, right? Because those are not our strength, right? But then I also believe if you're outsourcing something, you better be very clear in your direction, in your brief to that outsourced partner, right? Or else, they can be an expert in something. You're never going to achieve results because they're not an expert in your business.
In your business, right? Yes.
Exactly. So, this is how we kind of got around it. And
Mm.
when you say to me, there's a lot of things in e-commerce, believe you
Mhm.
me, I know, right? So there's a lot of things to do. So the team is really, really busy. So they've really adapted from offline to online. They're all, I've got my general manager, VJ, right? If you go into my platform, Instagram or Facebook, you can see him. He comes on live. He's quite a shy guy, right? I mean, he's really good in terms of operation. He brings projects to life. But
Mm.
to get to do a video was a big challenge. But now every other day he's doing a video.
Wow.
So he's pretty confident. So, I mean, all of them really transformed. So massive thanks to the teammate. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that I 100% agree with. Like, even this kind of podcast that I'm doing right now, I was not originally not comfortable with hearing my voice. It's like, me to do a podcast? Nah. I downplayed that idea, and I'm like, I would never do a podcast. And I may stick to just doing the blog interviews. That's okay, but
Right.
podcast, no. But dude, it probed me. I looked at the direction where we're heading in the world, and people do not have that time to sit down and really read a long blog of an interview. They would rather hear it as they go or watch it on a video. So I was like, all right, let me put my dare to the test. And that's when I managed to interview the first person and release the podcast. And now we are speaking at episode 21.
Wow,
Yes.
congratulations, mate. Yeah, really admire you. And Samuel, again, you're the proof, right? You've just mentioned a proof of the theory that crisis can be a catalyst,
Yes.
right? So for you, this crisis became a catalyst to you starting a podcast, right? And I truly believe, I think we've had this conversation before on the phone. I think you're one of the we've had this conversation before.
Yes.
You're one of the only ones who's doing a podcast and with a title like WowFactor. I think you're a pioneer. You should start teaching podcasts to others, youngsters. Yeah.
Actually, I saw someone who tagged me on LinkedIn asking the same question, asking for tips. I'm like, okay, all right.
Come to the Samuel course for podcast.
Oh, that's something that I'll definitely put into action. At least give them guidance at least on what to do and what not to do. Because I believe some people might think it's too expensive to start, but oh well. All you need is just a nice microphone and you're good to go. So apart from digressing from your question into podcasting, for someone who's thinking about doing e-commerce, yes, I like the fact that you switched from the offline model to the online model, and your learnings from offline to online. What would be your advice you'd give to someone who would like to start an e-commerce business when they have zero experience?
Right. So there are a few things I fundamentally believe. I've got a checklist. And the first thing is belief, right? Belief, right? Belief in yourself, strong belief in yourself, right? Strong belief in your strengths, right? That's why I've always focused, even with my kids, it's always about encouraging them on their strengths, right? Growing up, obviously, being a South Asian, it's always about parents saying, okay, you're not good in maths, you've got to do maths, you've got to practice maths, right? But I can be great in chemistry, but that's okay, but you've got to be great in maths as well. But what I believe is, you've got to foster your strength, and as such, the first thing is believe in yourself, believe in your strengths, be really confident in your strengths, right? And then based on that, think about something in terms of an e-commerce, or think about before you think about the e-commerce, think about using your strength. What community and what service can you provide to the community, right? Which should be the community, what service? So for example, if you take us, let's go through this, what I just said. Obviously, Gary and I believe in ourselves. We've been businessmen for over, 3 decades, maybe, from since we were young. So that was that belief. And the second thing is, we said that you've got to go towards your strength. So the current business we had, we were wholesaling kitchenware. We were experts in kitchenware sourcing, right? So we took that strength and extrapolated that into online selling of the same items, right? Then the other thing is, the third thing I mentioned is I did identify a market, a target market, and and look for a need, massive need. So we identified home cooks and a massive need for professional kitchenware or good quality kitchenware at affordable prices, right? So as you can see, there is a checklist, right? You go through those steps, right? Then to e-com, people talk about e-com. It's just a tool. It's just a technology. It's not a big whoop, right? So one of the things I also believe is as I said to you, I've done 8 businesses and I've never believed in selling products. I don't believe in selling products. If someone says to me, Khalid, oh, you're a cookware salesman, I get really pissed off, right? Because I'm not a cookware salesman, right? I provide superior cooking experience for home cooks. That's what I do, right? The cookware is just a tool, right? So I would always get people to always think, this is my personal experience, that e-commerce is just a tool. But what is the business? And the business has to serve a community, serve a massive need in the community, right? So when you do social media, you're not talking about your cookware, just your cookware, or buy this cookware at 75 ringgit, it's 300 ringgit, buy it at 75. No, you're actually doing a video on how to use this cookware, how it could reduce the amount of oil you use because of the coating, and how safe it is, right? Share the benefit, right? And also tell them, because of the situation, because of the economy, because of what's going on, it's also at affordable price, right? So you're actually serving someone. When you serve someone, you think about the benefits. It's not like selling, right? Selling is all about the price. Oh, it's $9.90, buy it, right? It doesn't matter who you are, what you are, $9.90, buy it, right? But serving is always highlighting the benefits. So I would say that starting up a lot of e-com businesses crash. And people say to me, there's a lot of e-com businesses, Khalid. When we started this, a lot of our mates and friends and even colleagues said, hey, Khalid, I think you're getting into a world that's not cool, because there's a lot of crash and burn, right? There are lots of failures than successes. But the reason why there are so many failures is because if people say, I want to get into the business of e-com, totally wrong. The sentence is wrong. You've got to come up with a business to serve people, right? And then use e-com as a tool.
Yes.
Use e-com as a tool so that the service to people, whether it's fulfillment, whether it's the list of items, whether it's sharing the recipes, all of that becomes a smooth and convenient process for the people you serve, right? So I mean, this is my 2 cents worth in terms of e-coms.
I think you're encompassing it even more on the business side, that it's rather than selling the product, you have to sell the experience, because the experience is more memorable and experience drives again sales. So experience first, sales come second. And again, service of people should be the overarching model for the business. I like the analogy: experience first and the rest follow. So in line with that, what would you think of the biggest causes of failure, apart from people focusing on selling items as their as their first aim? What would you think would be the main causes of business failure, especially for e-commerces that are centric to provision of food items or centric to food?
Yeah, it's just not following the steps that I just mentioned. I mean, really, you sit here and go, oh, look at Oxwhite, look at MyCookingStory.com. I want to start an e-com business. Oh, what can I start? Always people say to me, oh, Khalid, what do you think is conducive to an e-com business? And I go, mate, you've got it all wrong. You really got it all wrong. It's not as easy as that. You've got to self-question yourself, right? You've got to go through that process, right? You believe in yourself, you know your strengths very well, and using your strengths, who can you serve in the community, right? What do they need? And then e-com is just a tool. It should not be the main focus. So the failure in e-coms these days, from my personal experience of the last few months, is the fact that people think e-com is the business. E-com is not the business, right? It's just a tool. Just come to the part of e-com much later. The process here, the thinking process, you've got to go through the process first, and then come when you say to yourself, okay, I've got a bunch of people that I'd like to serve. They've got a massive need. I've identified the solution. Now I've got to deliver the solution. How am I going to do it? I need e-com. Right? It's as simple as that.
Just amazing. Just amazing. So imagine right now, what would be the best advice you'd give to your 19-year-old self? Looking at the years that you've gone, the wealth of experience you've amassed. How? Let me recap that. So, what would be the best advice you'd give to your 19-year-old self, based on the experience that you've amassed over the years?
Or you mean that really good-looking fit guy?
Yes.
The 19-year-old Khalid? Okay. Well, that is also a really good question. I've actually lived my life 10x, right? I've done a lot of things in a short period of time, and I welcome new experiences and I welcome change, right? I'm actually used to being uncomfortable. If I'm comfortable, like for a week, everything's going smooth, I'm saying to the missus, hey, what's going on? I'm bored, right? So I always seek challenges. So, when you say to me, what would I say to the 19-year-old Khalid? When you ask me that question, my mind is converting that into regrets, right? What do I regret not doing at the age of 19? Now, let me be really honest with you. I've had many failures, right? I've had more failures than successes, but the successes have been bigger than my failures because I've learned from every failure, and I've actually embraced failure. I'm not afraid to fail, right? I'm a massive risk taker. I'm not afraid to fail at all, right? So if you asked me, there's no regrets, because whatever another person might think, oh shit, Khalid, you regret not doing that. No, it's just a lesson that I've learned. And that has been my building blocks to all the successful businesses I've had, or the continuing success I'm being, and hopefully I'm going to have. So there are no regrets, mate. I don't know what I would say to the 19-year-old. I'd still say I was okay, right? Wow. Because I failed many times when I was a 19-year-old, asking girls to come out with me, trying to start businesses, trying to look for a job. But I learned from all that. I learned from all that, right? So I don't have any advice, actually.
Nice.
I'm happy with my life so far.
So let me again flip it. Let's say, the Matrix, the movie, where he gives you the red pill and the blue pill. So red pill is you go back at the age of 19 with the experiences you have, or the blue pill being erasing every mistake that you've gone through and going back to the age of 19. Which one would you take?
I think, I love Matrix. I think I'll go for the red pill because, it's not an easy, it's not, the answer is not that simple, because the reason I have the red pill is because of all those years of experience. Right? I'm 49 now. I'm 49, so 30 years of experience is the red pill, right? So with all that experience, and I didn't have to go through that experience, and you give me a red pill, I'll go back to 19. Shit, I'll take that. I'll take 2, thank you. Hey, I'll take a whole box. Give me a box.
Same thing. I would go back with all that knowledge, because I believe the knowledge is priceless. Because of course you can't go through this same experiences twice, but at least that wealth of knowledge is very, very, very important.
Agree.
So as we look to the future, how would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered? Damn. Okay. So again, it's not a simple answer. With the family, like for me, God, family, and then my passion, right? Which is what I do for a living. So for me, it's about my family. So, I'd like to be remembered as, kind, patient, and a great husband, right? And also a great dad. I'd love for my kids to remember all the lessons I've shared with them, all the time that they've spent with me. So that's how I'd like my family to remember me. And more than anything, I'd like my family to remember me. I mean, if in terms of the others, when I serve, I don't necessarily expect anything in return. Of course, I'm running a business. We have targets. We have a mission in terms of dollars and cents. But when I'm serving a community, whether it's charity or business, I'm not necessarily expecting anything in return, because that's another lesson I learned. If you serve with expectation, you are setting yourself up for disappointment, right? So yeah, I mean, simply, if I want to be remembered, I'd focus more on the family. I want to be remembered as a great dad and a great husband.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So as we wind this up, what would be your final remarks for the listeners and the viewers of the WowFactor podcast?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure who's going to be watching it, and what sort of audience. I mean, because the message is different for different kind of audience. But in general, if you asked me, don't chase money and fame, right? And hey, I am not a saint. This is again lessons I learned. If you asked me when I was 19, well, I want to be famous, I want the money, all that sort of stuff, right? But Khalid today is saying, I mean, again, I'm saying this because from personal experience, don't chase money and fame. Always think of serving people, right? From a professional point of view, always think of serving people. Always believe in yourself. And whenever you come across a tunnel, for me, a tunnel, the analogy of a tunnel is crisis, right? Like COVID or SARS or whatever. Or any personal crisis, a death of a loved one or whatever, always look for the light at the end of the tunnel. If you keep looking at the tunnel, if you keep focusing on the tunnel, you're not going to go anywhere, and you're going to get depressed. You're going to go down, right? But if you focus on the light at the end of the tunnel, you're definitely going to have progress. And light is always at the end of the tunnel. And why? Why am I so sure of that? Because I believe that's true. Right. Amazing. So these are some of the things, especially for youngsters these days. That's what I'd love to say. Just believe and just go for your strength. If people say to you, good at something, follow through, just do it. And then if you're passionate about something and that's your strength, everything will come, whether it's money, a beautiful wife or fame, all of that will follow, right? But don't aim at those things. If you're doing that, then you're aiming at the wrong things, right? So this is what I'd say. And for people that are sort of middle-aged or senior or veterans or something, what I would say is, again, embrace change and adapt, right? A lot of my friends are still like, oh, Khalid, I'm really not on Facebook, right? I'm not on Facebook. I don't have an Instagram. I'm not on TikTok, right? So all I've got to say is, I mean, there's a quick example. If you know Mydin, right? Do you know Mydin, the hypermarket chain? Mydin.
No.
It's a big hypermarket chain. It's owned by a chap called Dato Mydin, right? If you go to TikTok, he's, I think, in probably mid-60s to late 60s. He's there, like, wow. I take my hat off, right? Very successful guy, very successful businessman. He's actually on TikTok, and he does funny things and happy things. So, this is what I'd say to people, around my age group is, guys, just because there's COVID, just because things have shifted online from offline, doesn't mean that you can't adapt. If I can, if Dato Mydin can, so can you, right? So that's my take on the other side, the other group, right? On both spectrums. So that's it pretty much. I mean, and again, one last thing before I kind of lay my sword is, whether it's business, personal or professional life, if you start from here, right? Not from here. If you start from here, start from within, with focus on belief, you'll definitely be successful, because every challenge that you come across, every problem that you'll come across, you won't think, oh shit, it's a problem. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You're going to think, oh, that's a solution waiting to be uncovered, right?
Wow.
Every challenge is there for you to get to the next level in life, right? It's gonna make you stronger. Every challenge makes you stronger. It's like taking every challenge and every problem is a vitamin. It's good for you. Don't run away from it.
It's good for the heart.
Yeah, it's good for everything. It's good for your whole self. So that's it, mate. That's from me, Samuel.
Wow. So thanks for those powerful words of wisdom. Yeah. Thinking about it, don't chase the fame, and also adapt to the changes that happen, because change is quite healthy. So how can people find you on LinkedIn or Facebook, website?
Okay. So on LinkedIn, I'm under my name, Khalid Gibran, Khalid space Gibran. That's LinkedIn. And in terms of Facebook and Instagram, I'm on Khalid.Gibran 169, and the same thing on Instagram as well. I'm on YouTube as well. You Google Khalid Gibran, and then I am also on TikTok. But for now, I'm kind of my latest thing is I'm educating myself on TikTok, personally and for professional purposes. So you will see my cooking story on TikTok starting next year, post CNY. So I'm making arrangements for that. So I would not reveal my TikTok account yet. It's not ready. I've got an account. I'm dabbling with it, but it's all practice for now.
Wow, I'm impressed. TikTok.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Thank you so much, Khalid, for being on the WowFactor podcast. It's really an honor for having you on. And or as my word, parting shots at the end is the future is really bright ahead.
Thank you, Samuel, for having me over the WowFactor. I love it. And I wish you all the best, and God bless you for 2021. And go for 100 podcasts. You can do it, Samuel. Let's do it.
Thank you so much, Khalid.
Cheers. Okay, Samuel. Thank you.